this video, we will learn about increasing and decreasing function and how to identify what are the intervals in which a function is increasing and decreasing. So first, let us see what is an increasing function. I'm sure you might have learned what is an increasing and decreasing function when you were learning about functions, but let's just recap here once again. So let's say if I take the point x1 and x2, so we know that x1 is less than x2. And this is the graph of y is equal to fx. So if fx1 is also less than fx2, then the function is an increasing function. But if x1 is less than x2 and fx1 is greater than fx2, that means the value of y at x1 is more than the value of y at x2, then in that interval, fx is a decreasing function. Let me repeat this once more. If you take two intervals, x1 and x2, as we can see over here, x1 and x2, let's say the point x2 has, this is fx2, and over here, this is fx1. We can see x1 is smaller than x2, and fx1, the value of the y value at x1 is definitely smaller than the y value at x2. Then in the interval from x1 to x2, the function fx is an increasing function. Now let's take the interval between x2 and x3. At x2, the value of y is fx2, and in x3, the value of y is fx3. As we can see that x3 is greater than x2. But how about fx2? The value of fx2 is in fact greater than the value of fx3, right? fx2 is some positive value, fx3 is some negative value. Then between the interval x2 to x3, the function fx is a decreasing function. Also notice that between x1 and x2, if I draw tangents to this graph, these tangent lines have positive gradients, right? All of these lines are going upwards. All these tangent lines are going upwards. They all have positive gradients. However, between x2 and x3, if I draw tangent lines, then these lines are going downwards, right? So when a function is increasing, or the interval in which a function is increasing, then its derivative is positive. dy dx has a positive value when the function is increasing. And dy dx has a negative value if the function is a decreasing function in that interval. Let us now do one question on increasing and decreasing function. This is a question from your textbook, page 491. So here is a graph of fx is equal to x cubed minus 6x squared plus 10. And the question says, find f prime x and draw its sign diagram. Sign diagram means we need to show at what interval is the function an increasing function and for what interval is it decreasing function. So to draw the sign diagram, we need to first determine the x coordinate of the turning point. Because as we can see, before the turning point and after the turning point, the gradient changes its sign. So let's find f prime x. F prime x is equal to 3x squared minus 12x, and we want to find the coordinates of the turning point. At the turning point, f prime x or the gradient is 0. So 3x x minus 4 equals to 0, which means x is equal to 0 or x is equal to 4. So at this point, we know the x is 0, there's some y value which we can find later, and the x is 4 and there's some y value which we can find later also. So in order to draw the sign diagram, let's draw a straight line. We want to know whether the function is increasing or decreasing before and after these turning points. So as we can see, before 0, before x is equal to 0, if I draw a tangent line, all these lines have negative gradient. So the gradient is, it's a decreasing function. Sorry, the gradient is positive, it's an increasing function. Okay. As we draw the tangent lines, it's positive, the gradient is positive, and the function is an increasing function. Between 0 and 4, if I try to draw the tangent lines, these lines are going down from left to right. So the gradient is negative. That's why between 0 to 4, it's a decreasing function. So the sign is negative. And after 4, again, as we draw the tangent lines, we see it's increasing, it's positive. So this is the sign diagram. This is the sign diagram. In part B, we have to mention, find the intervals where fx is increasing or decreasing. So whenever the gradient is positive, in that interval, the function is an increasing function. If the gradient is negative, then the function is a decreasing function. So for the curve given, when x is less than 0 and less than equal to 0, and x is greater than equal to 4, the function is an increasing function. And between x 0 and 4, when x is less than 4 and greater than 0, in this interval, it's a decreasing function. That completes our question.